Welcome to Meet the Author, where you can join in on insightful conversations with best-selling and award-winning indie published authors. Your hosts today are Rob and Joan, who themselves are indie published authors, book publicists, and paranormal investigators with Tampa Bay Spirits, based in Tampa Bay, Florida. Thanks for dropping by. And now, on with the show.
Hi, I'm Rob.
And I'm Joan. And whether you're watching us now live or watching the show later or listening to the audio, we're really blessed and thankful that you decided to be in our audience. Chris Chrisman is here already saying,
Hi,
good
Chris.
evening, Rob and Joan. Good evening.
Paul Hollis, how are you doing? Happy evening, Rob and Joan, he says.
And Joe Conjal says, hi, Rob and Joan.
Hey, Joe.
Hey, Marjorie Daring.
Oh,
Hi, happy Wednesday. Hi,
Yeah.
Marjorie.
looks like the gang's almost all here.
Yeah, if we're missing a few
Yeah, but
regulars.
they'll pop in.
They will.
So it's been quite a week with the hurricane and everything since our last show.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's been quite a week, is right.
Yeah.
Some people in our neighborhood had damage. We did not.
Right.
The last one that came through, people in our neighborhood had pretty severe damage. We did not. So
So
we're
far, we've been
thankful.
blessed.
mhm.
Okay, well, just to keep you up to date on what's happening, WDJY FM, 99.1 FM in Atlanta, Georgia. 9 o'clock tomorrow night is Texas Winds with Dana Wayne. That's our episode with Dana Wayne. Rewind this Saturday, October 5th, is Larry Freeland's episode. And then next week live, Wednesday, October 9th, will be the Magnolia Bluff Crime Chronicles Reveal 2024 Part 4. Be the last one for this year. And featuring Jim Callan, Kelly Marshall, and Jinx Schwartz. And us, of course. We're going to be there, but we're not featured, right? Okay.
Right.
I want to tell everybody the Haunted Campfire Tales episode that was supposed to be tomorrow night has again been rescheduled because of some of our team members have had severe damage that they're dealing with from the hurricane. And so we're just going to give them a little time to get all caught up. And
Well, to be clear, it's Les and Beth, and it's not their home,
right.
but it's the school that
Right.
they run, and the damage is pretty bad because
Yeah.
they live on St.
Just
Pete, and they were
not far
their
from the
school
beach.
is right on one of the barrier islands, and so it was
Right. So that'll be rescheduled for October 24th. So mark your calendars for that. Thursday, October 24th, 7:30 p.m.
and we had to reschedule because Les and Beth were going to do their part of the Gettysburg, and
Right.
if they're not going to be here, and just for those of you who come to that podcast, wait until you see some evidence that our son gave us taken in a shop in one town over from where we live. And we're going to try and get him to let us come in and investigate. But so far he's like, I don't mind them being here. So I for some reason, he must think that we go in and we shoo all of them out. And we don't do that. We just investigate. So, and say hello and try and talk to
Right.
them and stuff. So,
Right. Okay, so that's all the news as far as upcoming episodes and stuff. Magnolia Bluff Crime Chronicles Book 28, of course, is out now. And it's for boys who struggle with darkness. And that's by Richard Schwint. You want to try to pick that up if you're following the Magnolia Bluff Crime Chronicles. And even if you're not, you should pick it up. And then don't forget the Song of San Leon, George Dismukes. Pick up your copy of that. It's going to be a movie, it looks like.
Yeah. Now, Chrisman says, glad you guys are safe. We're totally safe.
Yep.
No problems. We did evacuate, though. Our kids were worried about us. So our son lives inland, so we went and stayed with him. Marjorie Deering said, I was worried about you. So glad you're okay. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yes.
All right. Well, that about does it. Thanks for joining us. Oh, no, that's not the end of the show. We still have to have our guest yet. Okay. Why don't we bring on multi-genre author Joseph Carrabis. Hello, Joseph.
Howdy. How are you?
Good.
We're really good. I hear you're struggling with your allergies, however.
Yes. If you see me swishing something around, it's my throat lozenges.
Okay.
Yeah, well, totally understand
No
it.
problem.
It's been a wicked year. And it's even bad in Nashua. That's amazing to me. Chris Christman says, hello, Joseph.
Howdy.
All right.
Okay, so you've been on our show a couple of times now. I think
Yeah, and
maybe
it's
even
always
three
fun.
times, 2 or 3 times, something like that. And you're always fun to have on the show until you ham it up too much.
I do my best. Sorry.
That's okay, no problem.
Chris Christman said his allergies are bad. Yeah.
But
it's
it
a
has,
bad year
yes.
for allergies.
Yeah, it has been a while since you've been on. You've been very busy writing, and you've published 2 books since the last time you were.
Yes. It's it's what you do when you're a full-time author. You write and publish and write and publish and edit and edit and edit and hope they'll publish and write and publish. It's a life,
Oh my goodness. Tom Nally.
Hey, Tom.
Hello. Tom Nally and his chair are
There you
here. And the love of his life.
There you go.
Still going strong, I hope, Tom. Yes. So the 2 that you have written since the last time you were on the show are what?
I believe the last time I was on the show, we talked about the shaman.
We did.
We did talk
Is that
about
correct?
the shaman.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So since then, I have had Search published, and the most recent one is Tag. Excuse me. Search is, well, all of the books are works of love, I guess I'd have to say. Search especially so because it's based on a true story, a triple murder that occurred in Maine back in 1973. And I started researching it actively in 1978.
Wow.
And yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah.
So I wrote, at one point I had 10 chapters written. They weren't working. Then I went back. I left it alone for a while, went back. I probably made 7 or 8 attempts and said, I'm just not getting this right. Forget it. Well, the protagonist in Search is the protagonist, if you will, in The Shaman. So one of the people who read The Shaman, there's one chapter in The Shaman, which is entitled Search. And he knows me, and he got in touch with me, and he said, that chapter, that's the book that you keep on talking about. And I went, yeah. And he said, well, you have to write the book now. You have to write the book. And I went, okay, if I have to, I will. So the thing was, he was right, because now I knew the character. I had spent several months, close to a year, writing The Shaman. So I knew that character. I knew his life. I knew what elements of his life were active in the period that occurs in search. The time period occurs in search. And it was a very easy transition for me. I knew the character's voice. I knew the way he was thinking at the time, so on and so forth. So I sat down with everything that I had done to date. And as often happens, I'm sure this happens for everyone who's a writer, there were scenes which were just spot on. They didn't need to be touched at all. And there were other things which were, my God, who wrote that? That's crap. Can we get rid of that somehow? Big delete key, big delete
Yes.
key. So I took what was still good, needed some editing, but it was still very, very solid. And I went, okay, where does the story really begin? And I realized because I wasn't beginning at the right place, I realized where it began, sent it out to a couple of first readers, and got a big, big reward. Because one of the first readers said, I had to put down your first chapter. I could not read it. I went, oh, okay. And she said, I picked it up about 5 hours later and finished it, but I had to put it down because it terrified me.
Oh,
good. Because it was
yeah.
supposed to.
Right.
Yeah. The first chapter is where the antagonist really acts horribly, really truly reveals his nature. And nothing is done on screen. It is all inferred. But if you have an imagination, you know exactly what's going on, what will happen. So that was a big reward, and I realized, yes, okay, I'm doing my job as an author. So that was search, and then I needed a break because I've been getting books published in a fairly rapid schedule. So I had long ago in the 1990s, I'd written a story based on a thing I saw in an apple orchard, a young girl in an apple orchard, and never got that short story correct. Finally, Kaylin Booth, I'm not sure if you're familiar with her. She does the midnight anthologies. She
Her
reached
name
out,
is familiar, but yeah, no.
She reached out to me and she said, I really would love to have some of your work in this next anthology. And I said, okay. So I got that short story. And what is the core? What is the core of this? Okay, I was missing the core. Forgive the pun with an apple orchard, but I was missing the core. I got the core done. And I sent her the story and I went, okay, good, that's done. And the story was still sitting on my desk, unfortunately. So I looked at it and I said, there's more to this story than that short piece. And that became Tag.
Which is your latest.
Yes, Tag. And it was funny because a year later, this past year, Kay said, I have another anthology coming out. Would you have something to contribute? So I started typing another story based on a theme she had presented. And I realized I was 20,000 words in on a short story. And I went, wow, she's never going to be able to use this. And I realized I was writing a sequel to Tag.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So Tag is, the subtitle to Tag is The First Verduin and Patrio Mystery. Those are the main characters. And now off and on, I'm working on the second Verduin Patrio mystery, which is The Hanging Tree.
Excellent. Excellent. We have a couple of comments here. Paul Rushworth Brown says hello from sunny Sydney. Hello, Paul.
Hi,
Always
Paul.
glad to see you in the audience. And
Hello,
Joe Joe Conjal said, the last time I had a first chapter terrify me, it's because it was awful, so I rewrote it. Not the same thing as Joseph's experience.
But it did terrify you.
Yeah.
Yes.
But,
yes.
you know, it's funny because I've told this story on air before, but you haven't heard it. And it's that one of our daughter's friends read our latest book. She didn't write it, we did. Read our latest book, and she said, do your parents mind constructive criticism? And Jesse said, no, they want it. They love it. You know, that's how you learn. And she was very upset with something that happened to a character, and it made her really sad. And I said to Jess, that's fabulous.
That's good news.
It's supposed to make her very upset. I
Yes.
cried when I wrote it. I would like people to cry when they read it. So it was like, okay, you meant it as constructive criticism, but actually it was really, you know, really gratifying as an author to have somebody say, I cried. That's what I wanted to do. There's another section where I wanted you to laugh. If you laughed out loud, that makes me happy too. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So I get exactly what you're saying. That was supposed to be terrifying, that first chapter. It was terrifying to find out what his true nature is, which I think might terrify all of us if we looked closely at our true nature. It would be scary stuff.
You know, I think one of the rules of good fiction is that it engaged the reader emotionally, viscerally, that it moved them somehow.
Yes, definitely.
One of I have a person narrating one of my previous novels, Empty Sky, and he messaged me that he was having difficulty with the last 4 or 5 chapters because he couldn't stop crying as he read them.
Yeah.
And I went, yes.
I know. That's, you can't get a better compliment than that.
Yeah, really. Yeah, I mean, especially where. Go ahead. You go ahead.
I was just going to say, any artist, whether it's a writer or a painter or a singer or an actor, that's what you want.
Yep, exactly.
To make people feel. Let's see. Yes. Paul said, Paul Rushworth Brown, not Paul Hollis, said it's great if you can invoke emotion in your writing. Yes.
Yes, it is.
Oh, yeah. Joe said, Joan once wrote a scene that takes place in a storage facility and it scared her enough that now she won't go to one. He said scene, not science. I understood what you meant. That's a
true thing.
That's a true thing. Though we wrote that together. I think the part that really scared me, Joe, was the part that he wrote in that scene, the way that person,
where they found the guy
and how he died. And I was like, oh my God, I'm never going in a storage unit again.
Yeah, that was in
They'd still
Flash
creep
Zombies,
me out. Flash Zombies was a bad way to die. No. But that's okay. Yeah. And I co-authored that book. I helped write that. And still it was scary. But, it should. I mean, some stuff is really gross and that's life.
Yeah. And if our work doesn't really emulate life in some way, how can the reader relate to it?
Can't.
Yeah.
You
always, to me, one of the secrets I believe to powerful writing is if you have a character that no matter which the character's role is in the story, if some aspect of them is human, so that the reader goes, okay, yeah, there's part of me in that character. I got that. Then that character has meaning to them because every time that character's on stage, they will go, oh, he loves his cat. I love my cat. He loves the trees. I love trees. He works in his garden. I work in the garden. and there'll be that connectivity, without which, if a reader doesn't connect with a character, there's no simpatico, there's no attachment, there's no relatedness, there's no reason for them to go, yeah, I want that character to succeed or fail.
Exactly. And then you're writing true to life. If people can relate to that, then that's the best.
Well, we've reached our first break time.
Oh my goodness, that was fast.
Hope your throat is holding out on you.
Me too.
Let you rest here for a couple of minutes while we
go
take
to
care
our
of our
sponsors.
Sponsors here. Stand by. Don't go away, folks. Got a lot more to talk about.
This novel, set against the backdrop of the English Civil War, explores love and survival amidst the chaos of war. It combines historical events with personal narratives, highlighting the impact of conflict on individuals and families. England, 1642. When bloody civil war breaks out between the king and parliament, families and communities are driven by different allegiances. Red Winter Journey is a sweeping tale of adventure and loss, sacrifice and love, with a unique and unforgettable story of a mother's love for her son at its heart. A historic journey of twists, turns, and a dash of spirited passion.
I finished reading the book a couple of days ago. It was a great read. The plot was indeed compelling, and I loved the conclusion. What I particularly enjoy in Paul's novels is his vivid recounting of historical details as to the social and cultural sides at the time. His characters are very likable and relatable.
It's 1919, and Eric Laska returns from the war in Europe. Two new enemies await him in the small coal mining town he calls home. One is a threat to his relationship with Rebecca, the love of his life. The other, a bloodthirsty beast, is stalking the mining town residents. The townspeople suspect Eric of one of the killings. An old man and Rebecca's 11-year-old sister have seen the beast, but only Eric believes their story. To protect the town and clear his name, he's forced to prove the werewolf exists. Available on Amazon. The Horror Within by Marjorie Swift Doring.
Many secrets are hidden within the darkness of the jungle. Now comes part 4 in the Jaguar series by retired Hollywood scriptwriter George Dismukes. In this saga, Brandon, Andrea, and Naja, the Black Jaguar, go deep into the Mato Grosso jungle on a mission to rescue 2 kidnapped children. During their journey, they encounter many dangers, including Yanomami Indians, bent on revenge for the murder of one of their warriors.
Return of the Jaguar is book 4 in the Jaguar series, starting with 2 faces of the Jaguar, the Lost City, and the Jaguar's Quest. All 4 are available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and other bookseller websites worldwide. Return of the Jaguar is a must-read.
Welcome back. So the shaman, the search, and tag, do they all have the same protagonist?
No, Tag is set in medieval Eastern Europe, and it's a mystery, pure mystery. We were going to call it a medieval murder mystery, and then the editor said, the first murder doesn't occur until like the first 100 pages are done. And I went, okay, so we'll take murder off the title, off the promo. Easy fix. I'm not going to shift the murder to the page 1 because it just would throw off the entire story.
Huh. Well, as long as the murder is in there.
It is, yes. Actually, there's more than one murder. We're getting some very, very fascinating reviews about it. The one that I liked was one of the first readers said that this is meaningful for those of us who have a little bit of gray in our hair. He said Joseph wrote tag as if it was if you are there. For those who remember that show, he said, it's like you are there because everything is so real. I can even taste the mustard in the tavern. And I went,
Oh,
good.
Wow.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
See, I like writing like that,
Why,
where you
thank
can
you.
smell the salt air and stuff like that. That's the best.
I have a good book you should read. No, I'm kidding.
Joe Conjal says, "Hi, Joseph. Some of your stories are wild, dreamy style fantasy. Do you plan those out, or do you just let your mind wander through the story as you're writing it?"
Oh, God, that's an excellent question, Joe, which I'm not going to answer. So,
Okay.
well, it really is an excellent question. And
I know.
Thanks for asking it, Joe. It's a question I actually get asked in one form or another fairly often. And for me, it goes like this. For a novel long story, I will just boom, I'll have the plot points. I'll have front to back. But what I have is the plot points themselves. For example, in Tag, I know that a witch loses her hand. I know that there's a young woman and a young man involved. I know there's a priest involved. Blah, blah, blah. But the connecting tissue to get from one scene to the next, that's pure pants. Seat of my pants writing. What does happen is, as I'm going along and I'm at one scene, I will literally see how to get to the next scene. Is that my non-conscious doing its thing? Is that the muse? There are a lot of ways of saying it. Is it divine inspiration? Sure, I'll take them all. I need all the help I can get. But for me, Joe, it's truly a combination. Short stories tend to come to me fully realized. It's just a matter of typing them down and editing and tweaking them. Flash pieces, I can't get them down fast enough. They're literally flash pieces, and they're boom. It's right there. There it is.
Chris Crispin nailed it. Thoughts in the ether.
Yes, and Chris, as they say, I've been doing some Michelson Morley experiments. The ether is real. It exists. It's between my ears most of the time. My wife says it's pretty empty up there, so yeah, maybe so. In quantum reality, it's a lot of vacuum going on up here.
Quantum reality, string theory. There are so many things. Oh, Chris Chrisman said, "I believe." Yeah, I believe too. I want to believe. That's a decision I made.
Well,
Yeah.
Believing is seeing.
That is true. Very true.
It's not a matter of wanting to see and not seeing. It's a matter of in the shaman, people have contacted me and said, "That's magic realism that you wrote." I went, "Of course it is. What's magic realism again?" But the fact is, the whole purpose of the shaman is that dance between very real science and just on the other edge of science. A friend of mine wrote a bio of me, and in it she said that Joseph's work dances the line of natural, preternatural, and supernatural. And the difference is natural, okay, that's, we're touching it, we're holding it, we're seeing it. Supernatural is where a lot of us do our work. We're intuitives. The preternatural is, it's real, we can't explain it yet.
Mm-hmm.
And in the shaman, a lot of my stuff, but in the shaman very much so, the main character is thoroughly versed in science to figure out, to help him understand, what are these things I'm able to do? How are they possible? And one chapter, he goes and studies with teachers from all over the world. One chapter about one teacher, Grandmother Parvati, she's demonstrating a technique to him, and he can't do it. He can't do it. He can't do it. And finally, she says, "You're having challenges with this. Do you know what they are?" And he says, "This violates the laws of physics. There's no way this can actually happen. It violates the laws of physics."
Okay.
So she says, "Okay, are there laws of physics nobody knows about yet?" And he says, "Well, yeah, of course. I mean, we didn't know about, special relativity until Einstein. We didn't know about quantum mechanics until Bohr." And she says to him, "Okay, use those laws of physics that nobody knows about yet to do this." And boom, he's doing it. He doesn't even know what the laws are, but he knows they're there. And boom, he can access them and do it. And that's how, in his mind, it made sense to do these, amazing supernatural type things. Arthur C. Clarke, truly advanced technology is magic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. If we went back in time and did anything that we can do today, it would all be like supernatural magic.
Magical.
Yeah. Not, how far back in time do you have to go to have
Not very far.
Yeah, a cell phone.
50 years ago.
Right. Yeah. 50 years ago. Imagine going someplace and say, "I'm taking a picture of this." What are you
How
talking
about in the
taking a picture of this?
60s? In the 60s, when computers filled a room. And now it's this. It's also my watch. I mean,
right.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
Dick Tracy would talk on his watch.
Yeah.
We do that now.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
do you remember in one of the Star Wars movies, I don't remember which one of the earlier Star Wars movies, Lando Calrissian taps his watch, and one of the people he's working with taps his ear because he's got something in his ear which picks up the signal. Back when that movie came out, we're like, "Wow, man, that is so cool."
Yeah,
and now
cool.
it's like, of course, I'm going to, I got a call coming in. I'm going to transfer it from my watch to my earbud.
Well, on Star Trek, they literally used something that looked like a flip phone. They would open it up and talk on it, and that was amazing. And now, now that's old stuff, though they're coming out again.
They're back.
Chris Chrisman says, "Eyes once open." Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Yep. Once you've seen it and walked it, it's like a lot of, whether you want to call it supernatural or paranormal, a lot of those things are like surprising.
Yep. And are you folks familiar with the frog's eye concept?
No.
This is something, this is science. You can look this up. I believe it was published in IEEE Journal 1959, What the Frog's Eye Doesn't Tell the Frog's Brain, written by Jerome Lutvin and his research team at MIT. This is true. What they discovered was there are things which are in they're in the frog's visual field, which the frog's eye detects but never signals back to the brain. Look at that. Register that. For example, the frog's eye will pick up a fly and signal back, "Ooh, food." The frog's eye will see a human foot coming down. No, it's not food. I don't know what it is. Forget it. Don't bother. Don't bother signaling the brain. And Jerry Lutvin, clever man that he was, postulated, okay, what are our eyes picking up that they're not signaling our brain?
Oh, that's creepy. And fun.
The difference is we have different brain structures than the frog has. The frog has a pure reptilian brain. We have higher brain functions. And I know this is going to get, woo-woo for people, so I apologize.
They're used to us being woo-woo.
We've all been around children. When we were children, we would see stuff And the parents and the elders would go, "Oh, you're just imagining that. Oh, yeah, right.
All the time.
Well, part of my work when I was in science, when I was, doing advanced research, part of my fields of study were reopening, if you will, those parts of the mind, because I was very heavily involved in neuroscience, which had access to those things, but which we culturally, societally, educationally, no. The shaman, as you were talking about before, they are, they're walking around with trees that reach out to them and say hello and shake their hands. They're talking to animals who talk back to them. And I'm not talking about, well, he grunted and what that means, like these people who talk with the dolphins. No, you're listening to a bunch of squeaks. You're not, you're going through, that's like me talking to somebody who speaks Bantu. There's got to be so many levels of translation in there. But when you can really communicate with an animal, however it's done, the neuroscience involved of remapping our basically mammalian brain. Okay, a dolphin has basically a mammalian brain. Different developmental aspects. We should be able to communicate with it brain to brain. So, yeah, we have now discovered that is possible. We can communicate and transmit back and forth. It's very primitive right now. But again, we're talking about, 50 years ago with a cell phone. 10 years ago, you said to people, well, we can actually communicate with an elephant. We can do a Dr. Dolittle with an elephant and a dolphin. We're right now, we're working with mammals. Okay. I'm waiting for the time we can talk to spiders. That's going to be my biggie. And wolves. So, the preternatural, we know it's real. Our children and our ancients know it's real. What you folks do, it is real. Not everyone knows how to access it. For some reason, we have the ability to access it. Instead of, and the shopkeeper you were talking about earlier, instead of being a little, that's kind of weird, make use of it. Make use of it. If you knew somebody was a really gifted carpenter and they said, I'd like to build you a new kitchen shelf. Yeah, that'd be great. Or the person who did the cover to the shaman. Wow, that's beautiful. Do it. Don't be afraid of it. Access it. Use it.
Yeah. We're going to go talk to him. I mean, our son talked to him and he doesn't really understand what we do either, but we do. So I think we can convince him that we should really come in there and communicate with whoever he has in there. Marjorie Daring said, do ideas come to you more often at one time of the day or night, or is it totally unpredictable?
It's another excellent question, Marjorie. Next. What else? Sorry. One of the things I've been working on, I continue to work on, is, and I actually was talking with a friend about this, I made it a point when I was being very creative, receptive, whatever you want to call it, of cataloging. How do I feel right now? What's going on? What's my sensory experience? Am I tasting, hearing? What is the me that's getting this? And I have been training myself, and I continue to train myself to go into that state, much like a gifted musician, a gifted pianist. When they are playing, everything else kind of goes away. I'm sure we've all seen, I know that I've seen, world-class musicians on a stage, and they're playing and they're gone. They're not on the stage. The audience isn't there anymore. They're just somewhere else.
Really into it.
In the zone.
Yeah, and that's the zone. Yeah. If you're familiar with the work of Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, he wrote the book Flow and several of the books after that, all based on the concept of flow, putting yourself in that zone, where top level athletes go, and they're just there, So I've been working on doing that myself, Marjorie. I would like to think I am being successful at it. I'm becoming more successful at it. It takes me less and less time to be there. It used to be a book that I've been working on for a while. I was at a stoplight, boom, there was the whole thing. You know, I had to pull over to the side of the road and record all the ideas, the major plot points into my phone. Now it's more a matter of, okay, I'm at the keyboard. Let's go. There we are, boom. And I got to tell you, it's one of the most wonderful sensations to have, to know that there is a deeper you. I don't want to say another you, but a deeper you, a truer you, a more alive you, a more aware you. I'm sure, I'm guessing, I don't want to say I'm sure. I'd be willing to bet that it's similar to a state of high intuitiveness where you're simply aware. Yes, you're picking up information no one else is. Why don't you, why aren't you aware of what I'm aware of? I've stopped asking that question. I've stopped, people say, how can you know that kind of stuff? How can you not know it? I've stopped asking that. They don't know. They don't want to know. I do. I want to know. I'm hungry for it.
There you go.
Did I answer the question, Marjorie?
We'll find out after
we'll
this
find
word
out.
from
And
our
we
sponsor.
have another comment too that we need to address.
Yeah,
but
we got a lot to do.
Word from our sponsors first.
All right.
The clock is ticking. Can Gracie uncover the truth?
Philip Pliant is the wealthy opportunist plastics dealer and CEO of Pliant Industries. He's also a master thief, creating a pervasive threat to the manufacturing infrastructure in the Caribbean islands markets. With the cartel as his stealth client, the naive city leaders have been seduced, enabling the production of more than three-dimensional building materials.
The expected profits are monstrous.
Is the art group, now led by Gracie and the family heirs, strong enough to win against this predator?
Can JJ's cats act on the root cause analysis in time?
Will Gracie be able to squash Pliant and the cartels?
Gracie never considered their lives would hang in the balance. The clock is ticking. 5, 4, 3.
Have you wanted to publish your story? Have you thought about self-publishing? Today is your day. 5-star Amazon review. Self-publish your ebook on Amazon for free in 2024. This ebook is available on Amazon. By Becca L. Jones.
Paradise, my prison. Charlie Flint awakens from a deep sleep and finds himself alone on a tropical beach surrounded by a palm tree jungle and exotic animals. He cannot remember who he is or anything about his life. First, he must find food and build shelter and protect himself from hidden dangers. As his memory gradually returns, it reveals what a very flawed person he is. A man who made too many mistakes, made too many enemies. The implications of the truth are staggering. How did Charlie get there? And will he save himself? Paradise, My Prison is the riveting new suspense thriller from retired Hollywood scriptwriter George Dismukes. Paradise, My Prison by George Dismukes is available in jacketed hardcover, softcover, and all ebook formats worldwide.
And we're back.
We're back.
Chris Christman said, children and animals see things we refuse to see once grown up. But I think that we can see those things when we're grown up. It just takes more work than it did when we were children before everybody had told us that we couldn't see those things.
You have to break down the barriers.
And I also think that we ourselves shut ourselves down from seeing those things. There are times when you're like, okay, I've had enough busyness, so.
Well, and I think we're also taught to fear the unknown. You know?
Oh, I think a lot of people do.
So when there's unknown right there,
yep,
and you can't see it,
but that's scary. That scares a lot of people. Yeah, a lot of people say to us, "Oh, it's so scary what you do," and we're like, "Well, you know, it's not scary to us. It's exciting."
I know you've been struggling with your allergies and your voice today. Do you still want to read, or would you rather pass on that today?
If your audience will bear with me, I'm happy to read.
Okay.
I feel like I've been manipulating the conversation, though. I apologize.
Well,
this
is your show. Hello.
Okay, fine.
You can monopolize all you want.
All right, fine. Okay.
So you want to read
you're reading from tag?
I will.
Then tag, you're it.
And he accuses me of being campy. Okay, so I'm going to read the first chapter, which is short. Eric pulled Julia to him and swung his axe. The witch screamed. Cartilage and ligaments trailed from her wrist. Veins and sinews dripped blood where Eric's axe severed her hand from her arm. She pulled back into the massive black oak's bole where she hid. Her severed hand released its grip on young Julia's arm and fell onto the oak's trunk. It climbed towards the witch's den like a strangely shaped five-legged insect. A lightning bolt struck the oak. Heavy rains followed. The witch shrieked as the rain's pure water flooded the bowl. The hand grayed and steamed where each raindrop struck. The hand slowed its ascent and stopped as its flesh turned to stone, forever frozen to the oak's trunk, forever separate from the witch's screams. Julia ran to the top of the hollow, encircling the oak and its copse of trees. Rain drenched her simple blouse and skirt. She slapped her sleeves as if walking into a spider's web, as if beating out burning embers. Her hand rested on her full chest to calm her breathing, and her dark green eyes stared back into the hollow to the witch imprisoned in the oak by the rain. The witch fell quiet and returned Julia's gaze. Eric, farmwork starting to fill his equally young frame, came up beside Julia and spun her to face him. Julia, we have to go. Now, Julia. The witch's blood has blackened my axe and sleeves. He dropped his axe to the ground. My hands burn. He held them out. White patches shone against his tanned skin where the witch's blood withered his flesh. He cupped rain in his palms and rinsed his hands the best he could. Julia turned back towards the copse and spit at the witch. What can she do now? She's powerless in the rain. Eric spun her again. I've cursed us both, you fool. She'll not rest until that hand has killed us both, and it will take more than my axe to finish her. We must get back before the sun clears the skies. This is for Father Bayo and the elders to deal with, not me, not us. He grabbed her rain-soaked arm and pulled her after him. Ta-da!
Well, I've got to say that the idea of a witch's hand coming back to hurt you is terrifying. It's just, one of those things. It's in all of our, consciousness of a creepy hand that's not attached to anything.
So on the cover, is that the hanging tree you were talking about?
No, that's in the next book, right?
That's the oak, which the witch's hand is attached to.
Okay.
Yes. One more comment. Oh, Marjorie Deering says, very vivid and exciting.
Thank you, Marjorie. I love you.
And Paul Hollis said, great read, Joseph.
Thank you, Paul. I'm enamored with you, but not in the same way.
Joe Conjal said, wow, I think having an allergy-soaked voice contributed to the overall creepiness.
Why, thank you ever so much. I appreciate it. Yeah.
It was fairly creepy and very good.
It was good. You did a good job.
It was
thank you.
Vividly creepy. And so Marjorie Deering says, this emoji. For those of you who are just listening, it's a smiley face with hearts all around it.
Thank you, Marjorie.
What you got on the drawing board?
I am I am actively editing for release. It was supposed to be released in July, and I went, no, this is nowhere near ready. So now we're saying maybe middle of October. The book is entitled The Book of the Wounded Healers. It takes place in New York City. And the basic premise is this brilliant fellow who works at Columbia University. He's a what used to be called a mathematical linguist. He's working on the problem of what are called spontaneous languages. There's one living spontaneous language that we know of, and that is in Nicaragua, where in one village, for some reason, this village, at roughly in the same time span, several deaf children were born. The deaf children got together on their own and developed a language spontaneously. It's not based on any Hispanic language. It's not based on a known sign dialect. They created language themselves. That's a spontaneous language. He's working on the mathematics of how those languages come about. And the field is actually called neuromathematics.
How did they create a language if they were deaf? Was it a spoken language or was it
sign language?
Sign language. They did a sign language.
Yeah. And here's the thing, it made total sense to them.
Right.
They understood each other spontaneously. So anyway, spontaneous languages have happened throughout history. We have documentation of them. This is the only one that we know of, which is functional right now. But he's very curious how they occur, because he knows if we are to communicate with animals or aliens, it's going to be a spontaneous language. We can't teach them our language. They can't teach us their language. We don't have the brains they have. We don't have the neural wiring they have. We cannot think the way they do. Human languages are all based on the fact that our neural topography is similar. Okay. The Wernicke region is in everybody's brain. It's how we process language. Okay. But not everybody has that. So how do we communicate spontaneously? He is so driven in his work, he has a nervous breakdown. And he's at a psychiatric hospital. Now he's back home. He's been away for a while. Now he's back home. He is finally reconnecting with his family. And he's having a day with his son, Jiminy, his young son, at what is called South Street Seaport, if you're familiar with New York City. And well, it's a seaport area, and it's where they usually have buskers and vendors and carnival type atmosphere. So they're watching jugglers and people are playing music, and there are food vendors, and they're having a good time. And all of a sudden, from the East River over to Brooklyn becomes a desert of white sand. Extreme heat, a Scirocco wind comes across the desert, blowing everything out of the way. And everybody's panicking. And a few people are looking out in the desert, and they see these three creatures walking. Humanoid, but not human creatures walking across. He loses track of his son. Somebody bumps into him, knocks his son out of his hands.
Wow.
So he's panicking. He gets knocked to the ground. And he realizes these three creatures are still approaching. What the hell am I going to do? What's going on? Somebody help me. He's trying to back. He's crab walking, trying to back away. And they walk up, and one of them is 9 feet tall, 6 feet wide. Should be a pro football player. One of them is 7.5 feet tall, thin as a wisp. One of them is basically man size, human size. And they stop and they look down at him, and he's going through his mind. What do I say? Welcome to planet Earth. Take me to your leader. Who are you? And the last thing he says is, I wish I could get up. So he literally, one of the aliens literally reaches down and just helps him back up. As they were coming across the desert, they're hearing all the screams of people, and they are making the same sounds as the sirens, as the horses for the mounted patrol, as the street vendors, as the music. And as they're walking, they are recognizing, or they're looking for recognition signals. What are people responding to? And they acquire our language as they walk across. Now he has the perfect opportunity to study spontaneous language. How did you learn our language? Because your brains are not like mine.
Mm-hmm.
The rest of the story.
Do you have a name for it? I'm sorry.
The Book of the Wounded Healers. The rest of the story is literally they are walking through the island of Manhattan, up and down the island of Manhattan, so that they can learn about us. And, people are saying, he's saying to them, I want to go. I got to find my son. And they say, well, then you must find him. Go ahead. You find him. But they're continuing to move with him. I'll be quiet.
Just 1 minute. We have to say goodbye to our people who are listening to us in Atlanta.
Yeah.
On
WDJY
FM
in Atlanta. Thanks for joining us, and
see you next
week.
The rest of us are still here. Go right ahead.
It's good to be here. So anyway, they're walking the entire length and breadth of Manhattan. There's 62 chapters, and the subtitle to the Book of the Wounded Healers is A Study in Perception, because the main character is African American. He was raised in a pre-Obama, basically prejudicial, bigoted USA, and he carries that with him. He carries all that anger still with him. And he realizes that a lot of what he has been doing has been to prove himself to people. And the wounded healers, because they say to him, the first thing they say to him is, we are healers from the land of Baras. This is Sitaf, who cries for his own pain. This is Genril, who sees to his own needs. I am Bariah. I will tell you how I feel. Which are the three base elements: emotion, needs, thought, what drives us, what makes us who we are. So, they're basically echoing. And I have a friend, I have several friends, really. No, I do. Honest to God, I have several friends. I have a few of my friends are African American, and I've said to them, would you be willing to read this and let me know? Because, as I said, I've been at Columbia. I've been a mathematical linguist. I've never been African American. I have no idea. No. I'm basing this on a lot of things you guys have told me. Yeah. And so far, my African American friends are saying, this is brilliant. You sure you're not a brother and you're just faking it? You're passing? Yeah, really, I am. Look at me. Yeah,
you're an intuitive, so that helps.
There you go.
That does help.
Yeah.
It does help, because you can feel that,
Yeah.
That's awesome. That sounds great.
Thank you.
Also true, right? That's true. Just
I
never thought about that. Yeah, well, okay, that's a lot.
For me, one of the big kudos. For me, one of the big kudos is the first readers, and strangely enough, especially the African American readers, who I thought would be saying to me, Joseph, you don't have a clue,
right.
Write him as a Jew, write him as an Italian. You get some kind of background there. Write him as a Polak,
Right.
They're saying to me, can we see the rest of this? Is really good.
Good.
And I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm arrived. I'm not going to go to Ebenezer Baptist Church, but I've arrived.
or AME. I get what you're saying. It's funny. I don't mind writing male characters, and I'm not a man. I do feel intimidated to write as a Black person. It would, I feel like what you felt, that it, do I really understand? Do I really know? And actually, if you read our books, a lot of it, all of the main characters are of Irish heritage, because we both are, and I get that. I really understand that. I know what it's like being raised by. I mean, it's pretty common across the board. If I ever talk to anyone of Irish heritage, they'll understand why I say Jesus, Mary, and Joseph all the time.
And all the saints.
Yeah.
Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, and all the saints.
I heard it growing up all the time.
Yeah.
And so I've always felt intimidated to do that. So kudos to you.
Yeah.
That's an interesting point, because a long time ago, I was part of a work group, and the challenge was to write a story from the opposite gender's point of view. So if you're a male, write from a woman's point of view. If you're a female, write from a man's point of view. Don't put your name on it. Pass it around. We're going to see if And they got to my story, and who wrote this? This is brilliant. Who wrote this? Now the story went on to be recommended for the Nebula, so it was a good story.
Wow.
But didn't win. Didn't get nominated. Was recommended. But the fact that no one could tell that it was a male author, let alone me, I had done my work. Part of which was because people who are my regular readers, they have said to me, we can tell when you've written something because your style is so unique. It's, like Joe was saying earlier, wildly vivid things happening. So part of it was, how would a woman think of this? How would a woman encapsulate this? How would a woman frame this? Based in there, and this goes for whether you're raised Irish, Italian, a Bondic, whatever. Human experience triggers the same things in all of us. We see something, a tender moment, doesn't matter who we are or where we're from. The actual trigger may be different because it's based on culture, right? If you come from a very, very macho society, you're not going to cry. You may burst into tears inside, but you're not going to cry outside. No, that's not cool. Well, screw it. I'm going to cry. I don't care. I'm 70 years old. I'll cry.
I lived in Mexico. It's a very macho country. They just elected a female president.
Yes. Yes.
Amazing.
You go, girl. You go.
You betcha. Joe Conchel said, I've always wondered how and why Patterson chose a Black protagonist for Alex Cross. I know, and he is one of my favorite writers. Well, when he was writing his books.
Yeah. He does have other writers writing for him.
So now, and
some of those are contributing.
It's not the same.
But anyway, we need to let everybody know how to reach you.
Yes,
your website,
there I am.
There you are. Your website is josephcarrabis.com. That's josephcarrabis.com. And
is everything on there?
All your social media links are on there, and email and all that.
Yes, okay. There's one thing, if I may plug it. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Do you have a newsletter also?
I do, yeah. Strangely enough, usually goes out on the 19th to the 25th of each month.
Okay.
You can find a link to it on the website. I would like to make one plug, if I may.
Sure.
Plug away.
Yeah.
I am the host of a monthly gathering called the Roundtable 360. And that is on the last Thursday of every month from 1:30 Eastern time to about 3 p.m. Eastern time. And it's for a great many creatives. We have authors, poets, dancers, musicians, painters, graphic artists. If you're in a creative field, we're having you part of a group. And we discuss things such as, how do you get a character to the audience? What can an actor tell us about becoming a character that the poet can use, that the musician can use? How does the musician evoke emotion in their composition, in their playing? What about that can the actor make use of? We had this wonderful conversation. There was a dancer and a martial artist actor on the show. And, they were they just got off. They were really going at it because the moves, which are fluid and dynamic to both, but here it is evocative, erotic, if you will, exotic. And over here, it is intended just to demonstrate lethality. Same move. Well, what is it done differently? What's done differently about them? And the rest of us are like, oh, we're taking notes. We're going nuts taking notes on this thing. So please, by all means, you can find the links to that on my website. I promote it on every social media I can find. But if you look up Roundtable 360, you'll find us. Please,
Awesome.
please take part. Join us. Yes, we'd love to have people come and say hello and tell us about their stuff.
I was just thinking that, when we were talking about all this, about, writing as a white person from the perspective of a person of color. And I honestly believe, and I've said this a lot, I think we're more alike than we're not alike. And
yes,
we want the same things. We want to have a life partner. We want to procreate. Most of us, not all of us, some of us want to have children. We want our children to be happy. We all have the same dreams and aspirations. It doesn't matter where you're from or what part of the country you're from or what part of the world you're from.
Mm-hmm.
It's, Arabs, Jews, Christians.
Life experiences are going to be different.
Yeah. And culturally.
How you're treated by other people.
Culturally is different, but really we're all more alike than we're not alike, I think.
Yes.
I mean, I really do. It's no different.
Yeah. It's like Shylock says, if you cut me, do I not bleed? Yes, we all do, The one who doesn't bleed is a cyborg, so shoot them. I'm sorry.
easy to pick out of the crowd.
Unless it's really. Data. He's an android and he's a good guy. Chris says, thanks for another great show and guest.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you,
You
Chris.
are welcome.
Thank you, Chris. I appreciate it.
All right.
Yeah, Data's the keeper.
There you go. Okay. Well, I think we've come to the end of our evening.
I do too.
Another wonderful visit. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, we appreciate it.
My pleasure.
This was really fun. Here's another comment.
I'm sure it's somebody saying.
Paul Hollis says, fascinating show. Thanks, Joseph, Joan, and Rob. Thank you, Paul.
Yes, thank you, Paul.
For being in the audience. Marjorie Deering.
Okay, we missed that.
Okay, Joe Conjal says, great show tonight. Thank you, Joseph. And of course, Rob and Joan. Thank you. Marjorie Deering said, great episode. Thanks, Rob, Joan, and Joseph. Thanks, Marjorie.
Thank you.
Did you have pizza delivered while you watched tonight?
Probably, right?
That's what she usually does.
No.
No, we didn't either.
No.
Though
it did
does sound like a good idea.
Maybe now.
In the book, remember one time we were doing an episode and Joe Conjal said I need to put pizza in a book?
Yes.
Book coming out next year, The Alibi.
Yeah.
I even said to Joe Conjal, I believe I said it on the show, I think I could put that in my thing. I now have an entire chapter, which is based around them making pizza. So there you go, Joe. It's for you, buddy.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, yeah, our daughter has a pizza oven, and then we bought a pizza oven. I know you've had a pizza oven forever.
Yeah.
So it's like, and it's the best.
For sure.
Yeah.
I think we'll go make one right now. Can move you over. There we go. Got you over to the side there. I want to remind everybody next week we will be live, Lord willing, and that's October 9th for the Magnolia Bluff Crime Chronicles Part 4 reveal. And let's see.
One more comment. Joe Conjal says, I'll tell you where to send the royalties.
There you go.
All right.
Okay, well, until next time.
That's all, folks.
Bye.
Live every Wednesday, your Voice of Indie hosts Beam Weeks and Stephen Gees welcome authors, musicians, publishing industry pros, artists, and assorted creative guests for an exciting interactive hour. Call in during the show or post questions and comments on Twitter for responses in real time. Meet your favorite indie creators, learn inside tips, network, and promote your work. The link for each week's show is pinned on Twitter atop @VoiceOfIndie, and you can receive the link every Wednesday morning in your inbox by subscribing to our newsletter at freshinkgroup.com. Check out Voice of Indie every Wednesday on Blog Talk Radio and catch hundreds of episodes archived everywhere from our websites to our YouTube channel and Spotify.
Thank you for joining us here on Meet the Author. Make sure you stay up to date with our show by clicking like, follow, and share. And you can find us on Spotify, iTunes, and more. See you next time on WLFE-DB.com.